Felt like this was fitting for the intro to this video. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another MCU video. So today I'm doing a tier list ranking of all the MCU heroes. Now I want to specify a few things before I get into this. This is all post-Avengers Endgame. We're talking specifically Phase 4 and 5. And it's only new characters. So I'm not going to be talking about Guardians that we know from prior phases or, Black Widow. This is just characters who were introduced in Phase 4 or 5 in both the movies and TV shows. And they're heroes, not villains. So let me know down below your favorite new hero that's been introduced in Phase 4 or 5. Be sure to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, as I am so close to hitting my goal of 75,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot if you guys could help me get there. But without further ado, let's dive into yet another tier list. Alright, so the tiers I have are best of the best, great, solid, meh, and bad. These are the typical tiers that I do here on the channel. And again, these are all new heroes from Phase 4 and 5, both movies and TV shows. So if you guys think I forgot anybody, let me know in the comments down below and I may give you my thoughts on that character down there. But let's go ahead and kick this thing off with Shang-Chi, who had his own movie, the second movie in Phase 4. A blast. This is like right outside my top 10 favorite MCU movies, but as for this character, he's just a kick-ass dude. He's a valet in San Francisco to start the movie, and then we as the audience find out he can kick a lot of ass, and we find out more about his past. We go into this fantasy world of Ta Lo. Shang-Chi was just such a down-to-earth, cool dude, and Simu Liu plays that so well. So I'll be completely honest, he is one of the coolest new characters, and I gotta put him in best of the best because of that. If we're, specifically talking about post-Endgame characters that I adore, he's pretty high on that list. I cannot wait to see him in the sequel film. I assume he'll play a fairly big role in the next Avengers movie, as they kind of tease that in the post-credit scene for The Legend of the Ten Rings. But I'm ready for his next movie. I think that should be announced officially sometime soon, maybe this year, hopefully. It's gonna happen. It's already been confirmed to happen. We just need it now, because this is a character that I would love to explore more of. Moving on, we're gonna have a lot of Eternals to talk about on this list, so brace yourselves if you're not a fan of that franchise, or movie, I should say. We've got Druig, who is played by Barry Keoghan, Oscar-nominated Barry Keoghan. This is one of the more fascinating Eternals characters because he is sort of the voice of reason, or more so, one of the Eternals who sees the wrongdoings of their power. And so I always thought that he was a very interesting character. Barry Keoghan plays it so well. And again, I'm not as familiar with this film as some of the others on this list because it's the project I revisit the least, but I do remember him and Makkari's relationship especially being one of the strong points of Eternals. So I'll go ahead and put Druig in... this is tough. I'll go solid. I think a lot of the Eternals are going to end up in that category, as we'll see, but Druig was one of those characters that definitely stood out in that film, especially in a movie that introduced, 11 new characters pretty much, and not only characters, concepts that restructured our entire perception of the MCU, so solid seems fitting for Druig. Moving on, we've got Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld. I love this character so much. In fact, I'm putting her at the top of best of the best, and it's going to be hard to beat her because she is truly just such a delightful character in the MCU. The Hawkeye show, I enjoy quite a bit. I know a lot of people say it's the worst MCU show. I disagree strongly. For a while there, it was my number one. It's still top 2 MCU Disney Plus shows for me. Not only is it like this holiday fun time, but it's cool to see her kind of get the torch passed to her from Hawkeye. But she's one of the more relatable MCU characters. That's why she's at the top of this list for me right now. She is almost my age. Like when the show came out, I was in college and she is like around that age, and I could relate to her in a way, like not only with her relationship with her parents, but trying to like find her role in the world essentially. I loved her. She was such a delightful character who made me laugh, and again, just felt very relatable. We don't really get a lot of younger leads like this in the MCU, Spider-Man obviously being like an outlier, but to see someone my age, it was really easy to connect with her. So I loved Kate Bishop, and of course, she has great chemistry with Hawkeye and Yelena in that show, which was just another standout. I know a lot of people do like to kind of hate on her just because of the way her fight with Kingpin went down, which is just nonsensical to get mad about that in my opinion. She deserves a spot in best of the best in my personal ranking. I adored her. But moving on, we've got Tobey. This is just one of the goats, alright? This is the Spider-Man that we all pretty much grew up with from the Raimi trilogy. Of course he's gonna go in best of the best. And we're starting out front-loaded here. I promise you there's gonna be some variation with the tiers here, but I would say Tobey is probably... I mean, it almost feels like cheating. Let's be honest, I know that I just put Kate Bishop at the top, but Tobey and Andrew, I mean, Andrew's somewhere on this list. I'll get to him in a second, but Tobey is going at the top of best of the best, and Andrew's actually gonna, I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about him since we're here. I'm gonna put Andrew at the top of best of the best. So these two are like neck and neck in terms of like my favorite Spider-Man. I constantly flip-flop back and forth. I think Tobey has the better standalone movies, but Andrew's the better Spider-Man and actor. These two's introduction into the MCU was so well done because it was right after this emotionally draining moment where we saw Aunt May die in front of Tom Holland's Peter Parker's eyes, and that was just this brutal moment. And then we see Andrew come in, it was super unexpected, and then we saw saw Toby appear, and it was like, okay, they're gonna come in and have to bring our boy Tom Holland back from the ashes pretty much. And they relate to him in one of the best scenes in the film when they're all like on the rooftop talking about how they lost their Uncle Ben or Andrew lost his Gwen. Hits right in the heart every time. The tears swell. And then we get to see all of them kind of bond over the fact they're Spider-Man from different universes. We see them swinging in action and kicking ass together. So these two definitely added such a spark to No Way Home that they had to be in best of the best. Plus, they are the best Spider-Man in live action. These two. Of course, I love Tom, but I think that I might give these two the edge over him. So they had to be in best of the best. But again, it's almost like they deserved their own category. And these two, you know, Kate Bishop and Shang-Chi are like the real start of this, because it feels like cheating to have two Spider-Men who were established outside of the MCU and then come in, kind of steal the spotlight from these other characters on this tier list. But still, they're legends and they deserved to be at the top of best of the best. Moving on, we've got the Illuminati. Now, I have this picture down here of John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I'm using him as a representation of the entire Illuminati. Obviously, these characters in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, their potential was just flushed right down the drain. You know, they show up and it's like, oh my gosh, we got our new face of the Fantastic Four right here. And then within 10 minutes, he's turned into string cheese by Wanda. Everyone dies, you know, Black Bolt, the Captain Marvel variant, the Captain Carter variant, and of course, Professor Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart. All of them are killed right in front of our eyes, and it just made Wanda even more hateable, if I'm being completely honest. So I can't really put these characters in a solid tier. A, they're barely in the movie, and B, they die immediately. Plus, we didn't get enough from them to really make a decision on if they would be great for the role, notably Krasinski. I had so much hope, and I think he just looks the part of Reed Richards, but he only had a few lines in the film. And of course, we have this huge backstory and relationship with Charles Xavier in the X-Men universe, but again, this was a variant of him, so it's like this version of the character doesn't do too much. I wouldn't say they're bad, because a lot of them are just iconic characters. I would put them in mad because of that, and just the impact of them showing up was huge. Like, I remember just jumping in my seat in the theater being so excited, but I can't go higher than mad with the Illuminati. Moving on, in the realm of Wanda, we've got Billy and Tommy from WandaVision. These are Wanda's kids who also have superpowers. I think they're adorable, and you know, the little role that they do have, obviously they do appear in Multiverse of Madness as well. They play a big role there. I would still say meh. I would say they're better and more characterized than the Illuminati, but they didn't really do too much for me. They serve as like this vessel for Wanda to lose her mind, but also bring her back at the same time. Have them show up in like a younger Avengers type thing, or a young Avengers show maybe. Who knows if that's what they have planned? They probably do. Moving on though, we've got Phastos, who is another Eternal. Again, we'll see some more of those here on this list. Brian Tyree Henry owned this role, and he was actually one of my favorites. He's like the brains of the Eternals. Like, nothing really would happen without him. He's so smart, and we get this really tragic scene where it's a flashback, and it's after the atomic bomb is used, and he just has this great line. I forget the exact wording, but he basically says, how could like humanity do this? Like, he feels guilt for creating this technology and like introducing it into the world. This conflict, you know, among the Eternals and their role as like gods in the world, one of the more interesting elements of that film. So I would say that he's a solid character. I'd actually say Phastos goes over Druig for me. Moving on though, we've got Moon Knight, played by Oscar Isaac. I made a video talking about how Oscar Isaac's in all the comic book roles, it seems like, and that's not stopping. He's got Across the Spider-Verse coming up very soon. But Moon Knight was a show that I find highly overrated. Kind of lost me after the 4th episode with this twist that just didn't end up landing for me, unfortunately. I was like, oh, this could be cool, and then by the time the show ended, it was too ambiguous for its own good, to the point where I felt no clarity or no sense of finality, and I was just like, what did I just watch? That was a waste of time. That's honestly how I felt. As cool as the character's design is, both Mr. Knight and Moon Knight, and Oscar Isaac is giving it his all in the role, I can't really go higher than solid with this character. I would probably go, back of solid, and the main reason he's even in solid and not meh is because of Oscar Isaac's performance. There's just so much depth to it. The way that he's having to switch between these different personalities, that made it intriguing enough. I'd say the saving grace, why he actually ended up in solid, beside the Oscar Isaac performance, is that flashback scene where we see the tragedy that occurred in his past, which is just a devastating scene. Oscar Isaac's performance there, chef's kiss, it's wonderful. But I never really bought into the Moon Knight hype, both for the character and the actual show itself. Moving on, we've got Gilgamesh, yet another Eternal, one who actually dies. He is one of the least interesting. He's kind of just the brute, like the big guy with the muscles who can kick some ass if you need to. Other than that, there's not much to him here. If I'm really comparing him to the rest of this list, I unfortunately think I have to go bad with Gilgamesh. Definitely his relationship with Thena is the strong point of him, where we get to see some of that heart. He is the character not only with the least lines from the Eternals, but the one we know the least about. He's kind of just this mystery, and like I mentioned, he's got the big muscles, he'll kick some ass, but other than that, I don't really connect with this character, so I would say he's bad in relation to the rest of the characters on this tier list. Moving on, we've got Riri Williams, Ironheart, a scene stealer for me in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I'm excited for her show, especially after the way they set her up. I know a lot of people complained that Wakanda Forever almost felt like it was wasting time setting up this character. I thought she had a perfect role. The way that she is almost responsible for this whole vibranium war going down is really brilliant way to tie her into everything. She's a diehard Iron Man fan, she kicks ass, and she also has her own suit. That thing is sick. Now, I'm not crazy about the final suit, but the early on suit, like her homemade one, that is something special. It was such a cool little scene we got with her breaking out, and then the chase scene with Shuri and Okoye leading into the bridge fight. That was one of the cooler moments in the film, and she was just this like spark to the movie, because a lot of times this is a darker movie with some heavy material about grieving. However, she is a highlight of the movie for me. I'm gonna put her in great. I'm so stoked to see more of Riri Williams moving forward, and again, I can't wait to see what she brings to the table in her own show. Moving on, we've got Thena, another Eternal. We've got a few more to talk about here, but Thena, played by Angelina Jolie, another character that is a little lower on my personal ranking of these Eternals, because again, there's just so many of them. Thena's kick-ass, and if I'm being honest, I don't remember much else about her from the movie. I'd say she's meh. Probably put her at the top of meh, because she's more memorable than these two. Thena and Gilgamesh have like a pretty sweet friendship, but other than that, meh. Next we have Cassie Lang, who I am aware is not a new character in Phase 4. Cassie obviously is in the first Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and we see her in Endgame, but this is the first time we see her suited up, and it is a recast with Catherine Newton taking on the role, so it felt appropriate to put her on here. I like the design of her suit, but in terms of the character, I felt like they should have just kept the same actress from the end of Avengers Endgame, and I've seen this become more of a popular take online. Catherine Newton was not it, and what I mean by that is there were multiple lines where I just felt nothing. Like, there was no emotion behind the line delivery. She's like, "Dad!" and it's just very bland, stale performance, whereas the one little shot we got in Endgame where Scott reunites with Cassie and the actress whose name I don't even know shows up at the front door, that almost drove me to tears more so than anything in this movie, and it's unfortunate because Quantumania is built upon Cassie and Scott rekindling their relationship in this family story. It would have helped a lot more if Catherine Newton gave a better performance. It was clearly the weak link of the film for me. Despite her performance, I still actually really enjoyed the movie, had a blast with it personally, but she's definitely the weak link. The character, though, does have some great moments, like the whole "don't be a bit." I thought that was funny and very fitting, especially in the world we live in right now. People do need to take that message to heart, if I'm being completely honest. Performance aside, I still like Cassie and Scott's relationship so much that I'm willing to put her in solid. I don't know how high I can go. I think, you know, actually I would probably have to go top of Matt with Cassie. If that performance was better, that would take her character to a whole nother level. Moving on, we've got one more Eternal to talk about, and then we still have another surprise. Two more to talk about still. My gosh, this is an Eternals ranking pretty much. This is Cersei, who is sort of the lead of the Eternals, even though they all have fairly equal screen time. Gemma Chan plays the character, and she wasn't one of my favorites of the bunch. I would probably have to go mad with Cersei. I would actually put her probably at the top of meh. I feel like that's appropriate. I like her more than Thena and Cassie Lang. Her relationship with Dane Whitman was one of the best aspects of the film, and her having to sort of conceal the fact that she's an Eternal in the modern day society. They explore that a lot. I wouldn't say she's one of the lamer Eternals, but there are others on here that are way cooler. Moving on though, we've got Yelena, who is a queen. I love Yelena so much. She's introduced in Black Widow, and she carries that movie. Florence Pugh supremacy. And then of course we get to see her in the Hawkeye show as well, and her dynamic with Kate Bishop is hilarious. The two of them, whether that's, you know, that scene in the building with the elevator or the scene where Elena's eating the mac and cheese. There's so many comedic bits with this character, but she's also one of those relatable characters. Like the father-son dynamic between her and Red Guardian, who we'll talk about here in a minute, is a strong point for me, you know? It was real to me when she's talking about her family. Heartbreaking stuff, but also she kicks ass. She also has like that subtle humor that's not like in-your-face Marvel humor, like such a poser. Like that's a great callback line that makes me laugh. She's just got the charisma. She deserves a spot in Best of the Best for me. Her and Kate Bishop are like a tie for me almost, but I put her right over Kate Bishop. Like these two, give me their spin-off show. Moving on, we've got America Chavez, who was introduced in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is a character who had a really big role. Like the whole plot surrounds her pretty much. I thought that she was solid. I would probably go like middle of the pack. I'd put her like right here for solid, I'd say. I'd take her over Moon Knight just because she had more charm. I don't know when we'll see her again, and that is kind of an issue that I've realized with a lot of the Phase 4 projects is we're introducing all these characters, but we have no clue when we're going to see them again. And it's like, oh, it's kind of unfortunate. Not only does she have really cool powers, and her and Stephen Strange have a nice little dynamic, but we do learn about her like familial backstory and how sad it is that she ended up losing or getting separated from her parents. She's kind of this on-the-run person, and by the end of the movie, she settles down, it seems, at Comertage, which is nice. Love to see more of her. Moving on, we've got one more Eternal before we get to the last one later in the video. Makkari. I feel like Druig and Makkari go hand in hand, so because of that, I'm gonna put Makkari right above Druig in the solid tier. They're that dynamic duo, sort of a power couple in a way. But one really neat thing about Makkari is the actress who played her is actually deaf, and the character is deaf in the movie, so it was really cool to see that representation. And she's awesome. She can sprint extremely fast. There's a moment where like all of the Eternals are sort of ganging up on Icarus, and she's kicking ass. Like if you slow down some of the shots, the way that the visuals play out there, beautiful. Her and Druig are, again, some of the stronger, more memorable Eternals, so she definitely deserved a spot in solid. Moving on, we've got Red Guardian, who is the man. David Harbour, I adore because he plays Hopper in Stranger Things. My favorite character from that show, and that show is a huge part of my life, so it was great to see him in the MCU as Alexei, this character who is like anti-Captain America in a way. He's a little bit past his prime, so it's funny to see him put on this suit again and still be able to kick ass. But not only is he hilarious, he's a great father figure to Yelena, and their relationship to me is just, again, the heart of this movie. I think he's a great character, and I'm gonna put him probably right here. I would still probably take Ironheart, but Red Guardian's another one of those characters that we know when he's gonna come back in the MCU because he has secured a spot in the Thunderbolts lineup. So him and Yelena, their interactions are gonna be back. Another reason I'm so pumped for that movie. Next, we got Monica Rambeau, who was the best part of WandaVision to me. Like the 4th episode of that show, and we see her get unblipped at the opening, and then all of the events from the first 3 episodes are sort of recapped through her perspective outside of, you know, Wanda's society that she created, which Westview, I was blanking on the name. That's one of my favorite episodes from WandaVision, and she plays a huge role there. Obviously, she's going to be in the Marvels with Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel. I would probably have to go... I would go top of great with Monica. She really was, like, the best part of this show. I kid you not. I don't really like WandaVision, but top of great, damn near, and best of best feels appropriate for her. Speaking of the Marvels, next we have Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. This show started out so strong for me, and it fell off a little bit around, like, episodes 4 and 5. I think it had a solid enough finale, but the early episodes where we get to see her struggling with just the coming-of-age things that everyone deals with, like boy drama and, like, trying to impress friends and just school drama, all of that, plus, like, being a teenager in general, is just so relatable inherently. So it was great to see her dealing with the powers that she discovers and learning more about her family backstory. That was all my favorite of the Miss Marvel show. And Iman Vellani crushed it here. Like, she was so likable from the opening scene. I would go great with her right here. Honestly, I think I'd take her ever so slightly over Ironheart. Miss Marvel as a character was just this bundle of joy. She's a Captain Marvel hardcore fan, and we're all big MCU fans, so it was cool to see her become a superhero because we all wish that we could do that, you know? Who doesn't want to be a superhero, right? She's basically if a diehard MCU fan was in the MCU. That's her. Next, we've got Mobius, played by Owen Wilson from The Loki Show. Mobius, to me, when I was watching it, I literally said, this is the best character in this show. Like, he was the guy. So I honestly would have to go great with Mobius. I would put him back of great. I think I still take these characters over him. However, I can't wait to see him in season 2. Owen Wilson is the man. And then there were only 2. We've got Kingo, the last Eternal. Kingo, the movie star. I would put Kingo in solid. I think at the time he was one of my favorite Eternals, actually. And I know that he did some suspect things near the end of the movie, made some decisions I didn't fully align with nor appreciate. Kind of felt a little out of character even. I would still put him at the top of solid because I think that he was my favorite of the Eternals. And since I have pretty much all the Eternals here in solid or meh, he will go at the top because I feel like he was my favorite. Now, I haven't rewatched the movie since 2021, but I remember Kumail Nanjiani's performance being great. He's got the comedic timing down. And the last character here is She-Hulk from the She-Hulk series. This is my least favorite MCU project in the post-Endgame era. I gotta go bad with She-Hulk, unfortunately. I just don't think this character is funny, and I found the show really cringe. I appreciate what it was trying to go for, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I don't know why I just started doing that accent, but She-Hulk, But that's gonna do it for my tier list ranking of all the MCU heroes post-Endgame, specifically in Phase 4 and 5. Let me know down below what tiers you would have placed these characters in and who is your favorite new addition to the MCU in Phase 4 or 5. Hit that like button, again, subscribe and hit that notification bell as I'm so close to hitting my goal of 75,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. Stay tuned for more content coming very soon, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.